Good evening. Welcome to tonight's On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers. Tonight's show is 2 hours long and live, so if you have any questions from our guests during the show, text them to 87778 with the word EDGE, a space, and then your name, location, and your message, and we'll try to pick up on any that really hit the mark. They're all charged at standard rate, so why not get ready to text? My guest tonight is someone who has worked for over 40 years to uncover the layers of secrecy, obfuscation and lies which protect that elite group which allegedly has as its mission the creation of the New World Order. He has made 21 documentaries on that and allied subjects, including 9/11, the greatest lie ever sold, Illuminati 9/11, and his latest film about the privately owned Federal Reserve banking system called Frankenfed. He's also, unless you're watching this as a repeat, speaking at this weekend's Alternative View 3 in Bristol. Here then, all the way from Nevada, USA, is my guest, the extraordinary Anthony J. Hilder. What a show we've got tonight. Anthony, welcome.
I am happy to be here, but upset at the fact that I was not a British citizen and I didn't have the opportunity to vote on the Lisbon Treaty.
Well,
how did you vote?
I hate to disillusion you, Anthony, but I don't think we had a vote.
No, I mean, surely you can't surrender. This country couldn't surrender its sovereignty and its freedom, its liberty for all people for all time without a vote. I mean, you were told you would Cameron told you you would have a vote.
Well, but Cameron's not in power, is he?
I understand he's not in power, but he may be in power.
Well,
and then there's Brown.
Yes, Brown is in power.
And then Brown was talking about bringing in Blair. I saw it in the papers. To head up the New World Order.
Oh, to be the president of Europe.
Well, the Führer of Europe. Because, you know, this particular treaty isn't new. It is the EU is Hitler's dream.
I think it's the sixth one, isn't it? I think we've had 5 treaties before the Lisbon Treaty, or maybe 4. And then...
Let's go back to Adolf Hitler. When he had the Third Reich, he was following a schematic, a game plan, that was written by Adolf Hitler in his second book, The World Order.
Well, I think Adolf Hitler introduced the European Economic Community, didn't he?
Oh, absolutely.
What was it? The free market idea for Europe as the starting point.
About it. So what Hitler failed to do in his invasion of all of Europe and his attempt to invade England through a program of bullets and bombs and using boats, U-boats below and carriers above, the British Parliament and Brown and Blair have done through acts of treason and through a treaty. I mean, this is exactly what's happened. They failed to do, under Adolf Hitler, what has been done and accomplished under Blair and Brown, and with the acceptance of Cameron.
And the treaties before that were signed by Margaret Thatcher and John Major, I believe, the previous Conservative.
Well, there was a fellow named Heath. I guess he started...
Edward Heath, yes, Edward Heath.
Sir Edward Heath. And I was talking to some people in Bournemouth. I was down there the other day. And I'm looking at some papers, and I'm seeing the Heath sort of started this all. I mean, after Hitler failed, Heath brings this document back up, and he sort of shoves it into the Parliament, and he said, well, nothing's really going to happen here. And I said, hey, Heath, my God, he's guilty of high treason. I said...
well, I think the game at the time was that the French were playing the blushing bride and refusing to let us join the common market. And we wanted to join, and they were going, oh, no, 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 merci, no.
You know, I was thinking about this Heath guy, and so I went down to Salisbury, the cathedral. I wanted to go in
because cathedral,
when I came in, I see this headline. Britain, the end of it all. And I see the flag of the EU, Hitler's dream come true, over the Parliament. As Lisbon Treaty becomes law, we've been sold down the river. That's what's happened. Could it happen? No, it did happen. And I came out of this little pub, had some dinner, and I said, Britain, the end, and I'm looking around, my God, people, they must be running, scurrying around the streets. No. It was like zombie land. I kid you not. It was like zombie land, alive from the neck down, dead from the neck up. Have they no idea? Don't you have any idea what the hell has happened? Good Lord. This is like the surrender of the United States Constitution, the surrender of the United States to a North American Union. I call it the Nazi Agreement, like the Nazi Agreement, because this is a Nazization of this nation. And Heath did this thing, and I'm here. I go down to Salisbury Cathedral. I try to get in. Nope, there's the BBC. And I think, well, the BBC has got it. These guys are sharp as a tack. They're in there. They understood that Heath sold out the country. And
why are they in Salisbury Cathedral then?
Well, I didn't
What's
know
it got to do with Salisbury?
There was some boys' choir in there. And I said, you're not covering this story about Heath having started this movement which surrendered the Magna Carta and the whole thing. And he said, no, we're covering the boys' choir. I said, my God, this is unbelievable, because the Magna Carta is about 40 yards down in some case, so people could see it, a copy of it, the Magna Carta. And then Prime Minister Heath, who was responsible for the surrender of the sovereignty of this great island nation. Here is Heath. Here, over on the other side, is the Magna Carta. And I said, this is an atrocity. It's an outrage. It's beyond belief. And I'm thinking, well, what has to happen? I mean, I noticed this, and apparently the Brits don't. So I'm asking that we exhume the body of Sir Edward Heath. Exhume it. Take it out of the cathedral. Get it away from the Magna Carta. You can shove it over into London, grind it up, and flush it down the sewer system, where it belongs. How can the document that provided freedom for this country... I am constrained to say, Anthony, that your opinions may not necessarily be those of this station. Oh, I know that. But, I mean, then there are no real opinions about that by the BBC. And why isn't the BBC handling it? Why aren't they talking about it? Again, I can't comment about the editorial policies of the BBC, but I do know you get a different class of news here on Channel 200, controversial TV. And let me say something. And am I on this camera over here? You are now, right. Yes. I've got to tell you something. I've been here for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I turn on the television, on the Edge TV. This man here is talking. The best damned television show in this country. It's not usual procedure for me to stop and say, so you got to support this station. I've been on many stations, and I've been on their air for a long period of time, and I recognize that this station, and you in particular, are allowing freedom of choice, freedom of speech. The others are not. When I watched the girl from the BBC talking about, she's smiling and she's saying, oh, well, you know, this attack on New York City, and it was all so terrible. And the North Tower went down, the South Tower went down, and the BBC gets right smack dab right in front there with all the news on the time, always accurate. She's talking about Building 7 going down, and I'm taking a look at this clip, and I said, Building 7 going down? It's right behind you. It's right. It's right behind. There's building 7 over here. Here's the 47-story building, and it's collapsed. No, it hasn't collapsed yet. And what is the BBC saying? Oh God, it's gone down. They got the news in advance. They are part of the program. the manipulation of the mindset of the nation. Novocained. The nation has been Novocained. There's only one chance that we can reverse this treaty, that we can have a constitution that will protect this nation just like it has, with our constitution, protected our nation. I went to this British Constitution group, came in London, spoke there. And I stood up and I said, how many of you read the Constitution? 5 or 6 people, and I stood up again in some chairs, and I looked out, I said, how many of you read the Constitution? 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. There is no Constitution. We have to have a Constitution, separate and aside from the Parliament. The Parliament can't vote on it. These are the guys that already sold you out.
Well, you say, I've got to ask you about this because, you know, America has a Constitution and a Bill of Rights, and...
It's under attack.
I think it's a bit too late for that, isn't it?
No, it's not too late. I take a look at some of the information coming out in the American Free Press, and I write for it. NAFTA highway dealt another serious blow.
That's the North American Free Trade Association.
That's right.
Yeah.
They're trying to bring into America what has been done here.
The North American Union, which is Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
Right, and if you've ever been to Mexico, it is a damn disaster. I was there about a month ago. God, the drugs, the killing, the whole thing. They say, well, let's keep our borders open, and they're coming across. It's an invasion from Mexico. The greatest invasion, the only invasion that America has ever faced. The only invasion. 21 million people have invaded the United States of America, and our Parliament, our Congress is saying, well, we've got to take care of these people. We've got to give them citizenship. And the cost of living has skyrocketed through the roof. Gold has gone to the ceiling, past $1,100. The dollar is not dying, it's dead. We have in America a train wreck.
Do you think this is planned, Anthony? Do you think the death of the dollar is planned?
No, I do not think it is planned. I know it is planned.
Okay.
It's over.
And so it'll be taken over by the Mmr, will it?
No, it won't be, because we're not going to let it. You know, I brought over here some silver coins, right?
What are these? May I see?
Yes, you may. See, the dollar used to be based upon 412.5 grains of silver.
Wow, they're beautiful, aren't they? Liberty, it says. Liberty, USA, trust in God. And if that fails, you can always got silver. Well, you can trust in.
See, my uncle put $10 of those silver dollars in the bank for me, in Bank of America. And but you cannot bank on America.
This actually says on it, Liberty dollar, and then it says $10. So although it's a dollar, it's worth $10.
This is the new, you know, somebody said, let's do what the government will no longer do. And they said it was $10. Now it's $20. It's like the Zimbabwean.
Well, the same thing is now $20.
Well, it'll be 20, it'll be 30, it'll be 40, it'll be 50 for the same amount of silver, which means that the paper dollar, that fiat funny money we use, will be like this 20-pound note. You might bring it in. I'll, you know, get a picture of this guy.
Yes, that's Tony Blair.
Oh, is it Tony Blair?
As the Queen, I believe.
Queen Blair. No kidding. Yes, Queen Blair and Queen Brown, Queen Heath. Good Lord. And that's not a chocolate bar.
So they're very beautiful, aren't they, those silver dollars?
These are really nice. They're nice. You know, it's got a good feel.
Nice.
But when American money goes the way of Zimbabwean money, and I was doing this film, Frankenfed, here it is. I brought the poster. Frankenfed, and here's Bernanke.
Ben Bernanke.
Bernanke.
Yeah. The
monster amongst us. So why do I compare Bernanke and these boys with the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor reserve, to the monsters? I mean, they're the monsters, just like this monster over here. We were over in an estate the other day, just close to this studio. Rockefeller? No, it wasn't Rockefeller's. It was...
Rothschild?
Oh, Rothschild. Amazing you picked up on that.
That was a good guess, wasn't it? Completely random. I don't know how that came to me.
He's got this huge estate, and then we're walking in there, we see this structure. It looks like the Illuminati pyramid on the backside of the dollar bill. Okay. At the top of the pyramid is the Eye of Lucifer. It's called the Eye of Horus. Yeah. And at the bottom it says 1776, but it's not. May 1st, well, it's not July 1st.
It's July,
no, it's not.
4th of July, isn't it? 4th of July, 1776,
right.
Yeah.
But, you know, I sort of get confused because I'm taking a look at it. It says May 1st, 1776. Well, it doesn't say anything specific, but May 1st is the formation of the order and the sect of the Illuminati. Yeah, that's that Luciferian organization. And then I go over here to the Rothschild estate, and I'm looking at the pyramid. And I'm saying, my God. And I'm hearing these rumors that guys are dressed in, you know, these black robes, walking over here with royalty and rock stars. And I think, well, that's spooky. You can't believe these wild rumors. And I didn't even believe the rumor that there was this pyramid on the estate. And I'm walking up to it, and I'm thinking, is this Illuminati a satanic order? I said, oh, no. Illuminati, the enlightened ones, I mean, do they think that they have got all of the intelligence and we are just the sheeple? And I look around, and here in this big field, it's all of these sheeple. But I'm not concerned about those sheep. They're going to be sheared, and they're going to be slaughtered. And then I take a look at the British people, and I'm looking out there, and I look at the American people, and I'm looking out there. Alive from the neck down, dead from the neck up, zombies. If we do not incite a revelation, if we don't have an awakening.
Are you saying incite a revelation or a revolution?
I say a revelation.
A revelation, okay, because obviously we have to be very careful about inciting a revolution.
Now, it's a lawful thing. This paper over here, the UK column, it's out, and it's all around the country, and it's growing. They're talking about a lawful revolution. In other words, letting the people rule this country, the people who own this country, the people who live in this country, rather than turning over the authority to some unknown body dressed in those black robes, walking over to this Illuminati pyramid at night. You know, it's spooky. I went with Matthew over to this cave down here in this town, and the Hellfire.
Hellfire Caves.
Yes. And Benjamin Franklin was over there at one time. And we hear all of these satanic things. Kubrick did a picture of the eyes wide shut.
That was his last film.
Yes, isn't it?
And it was, he had a clause to say it cannot be edited by anybody except him. And the minute he died, they re-edited it. So we'll never know what it really said.
Well, I suspect that those who control the privately owned Federal Reserve System and the Class A stockholders, which have never been revealed to the United States public, may be something like the Bank of England. And I figured I've got to have a shot of this exchange, the British exchange out there. And I'm looking at this pyramid out in front of the exchange.
What do you mean the exchange? You've lost me there. Do you mean the Bank of England or?
The Bank of England over there, but I'm talking about the Royal Exchange.
Oh, the Royal Exchange.
And on one side, there's a thing called Threadneedle Street.
Yeah, that's where the Bank of England is, yes.
And then there's a picture of Wellington, I mean, a statue of Wellington. And I'm looking at Wellington, and I'm taking a look at the Rothschilds' history. The Rothschilds told all of the people in the Royal Exchange that Napoleon had won and Wellington had lost. The exchange dropped.
A Battle of Waterloo.
Yes. Yeah. God. They told a lie. They had carrier pigeons or whatever. They got the information over here that Wellington had won and Napoleon had lost. They said that Napoleon had lost and, well, no, they said Napoleon had won. Oh,
yes.
You know, it's a bit...
He cornered the market, didn't he? One of the Rothschilds cornered the market because the bottom fell out because everybody else thought that the British had lost the Battle of Waterloo.
Yeah, it was
against the French.
so confusing. These guys, the people who had all of the money, lost their money. Suddenly the Rothschilds picked it all up. And they controlled the Bank of England. And we had an agreement that was put together in private in Jekyll Island.
Oh, Jekyll Island, yes.
And a friend of mine wrote a book called
The
Creature from Jekyll Island. It's like a monster. And I'm going back to, you know, this thing, the monster amongst us, Frankenfed.
There was a Federal Reserve Act in America, wasn't there, in 1913, which re-established a privately owned bank to issue the banknotes of America.
Well, it didn't...
Because it had been established
yeah,
before,
there was,
and then it was abolished,
yes,
apparently.
abolished. But what did it do? They brought in they brought in the income tax in 1913.
Which there is no, apparently there is no American act that says you have to pay income tax.
Not really, but I took a look at the income tax, the 16th Amendment, and it's the second plank of the Communist Manifesto. Oh, you mean to say the communists would actually take monies from everybody for redistribution, and then those monies would be used to pay the interest on the notes that's issued by the Federal Reserve, lent into circulation at face value plus interest. In New York City and several other places where they have these Ponzi schemes, they got the fellows throwing the ball underneath this thing, and you're looking back and you're all confused.
Oh, find the lady type thing. Find them.
My God.
Yeah.
What is this? You mean to say that we're borrowing our money from the Federal Reserve, paying interest on that, and to pay the interest on that, we've got to borrow more money.
Because if they only ever make $1, how do you ever pay the interest on that?
You can't do it.
It's impossible.
But the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, these guys over here, not far from here, and I'm thinking, you know, people are so upset with all this. They probably want to go over and talk to Lord Rothschild. They would say, you know, I don't know, you probably have to call to make an appointment to go.
I do have to say at this point, once again, that any opinions you express along those lines are your own opinions and not necessarily the opinions of this station.
I'm just saying, you know, people are probably concerned with what's happening to the dollar because the pound is going in the same direction the dollar is going. It's going down. And of course, if you've got money in the bank, you've got the paper money, and tomorrow it takes more paper money to buy this money, and then more and more and more in Zimbabwe. And I figured, well, I got to put this thing.
I think they produced $100 billion. Is it dollars or pounds? I'm not quite sure.
Well, no, it's
but whatever
dollars.
the
It's
currency,
dollars,
it's $100 million notes.
I was over there in Rhodesia, and then when it became Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, and Mugabe came in really by bullet rather than by ballot. And I thought about this thing. I said, well, I've got to convince the American people that this thing is happening. So I showed a $250 million note on the screen. Shocked. And then I figured, no, that's not enough. So I pulled up a $50 billion, that's a $50,000 million note, Theo. Mm-hmm. 50, and I was trying to figure out what's the value of it. And somebody says, well, it's worth about 4 pieces of paper. I said, well, what kind of paper? He says, well, toilet tissue. And I said, you're kidding. 4 pieces of toilet tissue for 50 billion, 50,000 million?
Anthony, I've got to interrupt you there because we're going to go for a break. If you'd like to text in your questions or comments for Anthony J. Hilder, please do so now to 87778 with the word EDGE and then your text. See you back here again very soon. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Anthony J. Hilder. Well, just before the break, we were talking about unfeasibly large currency notes from Zimbabwe.
Well, you know that Mugabe is Africa's Black Hitler. 23 million people. You'd think, well, that would be an enormous story if they were killed, but only 23,000 above Bulawayo, Matabele, 23,000. You think, well, in the American press, that really doesn't make much difference because they were black. Mugabe, through the North Korean communist, mass murdered 23,000, and I guess maybe that's just not enough. People, Matabele. I used to go with a girl who's part Matabele and a Pakistani and German. And that bothers me, Theo. It bothers me a lot about the Zimbabwean currency because I had to pull up a $50 million note, and I said it was worth 4 pieces of toilet paper. Used. They were burning. They were burning money for fuel.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen because this guy here, I talked about Zimbabwe's Black Hitler, and here's this guy here.
Who's that?
This is a fellow named
Obama.
Obama. Are we taking a look at an abomination? Absolutely. Are we facing an Obamageddon? Possibly. And this is Act Now to Stop Obama's Nazi Health Plan. Here's Obama and the Fuhrer. I know this is just put on, but it's not really put on. 14,000 billion, and a billion is 1,000 million into circulation. This is worthless. When the people of this country, in the United States, wake up and we say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore, well, they're going to stand up and they're going to do something. And that's what's necessary right here. It's essential right here. And I look at the news. You know, I see this. First of all, I saw the news and it said they're going to mark every child. They're going to vaccinate every child from 18 on back to birth. That sounds like some sort of Orwellian thing you'd read in the book 1984. But that is Hitlerian in nature, and what we face here is EU. Hitler's dream come true. And then I see in the paper, I said, well, no bother, Big Brotherment database canceled by ministers. But the mere fact that they would consider giving us a vaccination, giving us an injection, giving our children injections, those children who have injections, and if you are sending your child in for a vaccination mandated by the state, you may wind up with a child who cannot think, who cannot function. And that happened to my co-host, a girl named Rena Poole. She's about 4'11", just a little bitty thing. Her child's about 10 years old and running around screaming, totally uncontrollable. Perfectly normal child until the vaccinations. It's vampirian in nature. It kills people. The World Health Organization went over to Africa, to Senegal, Uganda, Zaire, Haiti, Brazil. They gave them vaccinations for hepatitis. Well, they gave them vaccinations there for smallpox. And AIDS came to the African people, courtesy of an organization that we're forced to pay monies to support. That organization, the United Nations, has to come to a close. I've developed a thing called the Free World Alliance, calling for the recognition of the tribal, linguistic, racial, religious, and political nation states. In opposition, not just in opposition to the United Nations, but offering people a chance to become free, we just simply unilaterally declare a nation within a nation independent. Let them form their own currency. Let them form their own government, as the British people must do now. Have a constitution separate from, not amended by or controlled in any way by the Parliament, because they have lost their right to govern the people. I believe that Blair and Brown and most of those who profess to rule this country should be on trial for high treason, as they were put on trial for high treason at the British Constitution Group in London. I spoke there. I'm in support of their decision.
That was a mock trial, wasn't it?
It was a mock trial, but this isn't a mock situation. The reality is, at Lisbon, and you said did you vote for the Lisbon
the Lisbon Treaty? No, funny enough, I must have missed the chance to vote for the Lisbon Treaty, because I'm sure I wasn't asked.
You know, God, you know, and I think of this thing, and I saw something else in the paper, and here it was, signed, sealed, right? Here's, is that guy, that guy, Brown?
Sorry, I can't see that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Gordon Brown.
That's
yes.
Gordon Brown. Signed, sealed, delivered, and they gave you the conclusion. You know what the conclusion is? Up yours, that's what they said.
Well, I think
they don't care.
That's an echo of a famous Sun headline, which was "Up yours, Delors," to a Frenchman. So they've kind of rehashed an old headline, but it is quite interesting.
Is it valid?
Well, it's not for me to say, but you clearly think it's valid.
I just did. I mean, you know, I came in the country, and I'm looking around. And I said, "My God, there's an atrocity that's happened here." I thought I could get here in time and be part of the protest, and I take a look at the paper, and I see the end of our right to protest. Another story. We have no right to protest. It's Hitlerian, like they had under Adolf Hitler. And then I read another headline.
Let me just see, what was the date of this? This is the Telegraph, isn't it? Sunday Telegraph in November the 1st this year. Yeah.
And then I see 4,350 pounds a family to bail out the banks. To bail out the banks who've screwed you, want to tattoo you, who want to vaccinate you. They want to suck everything that you have from your account and from your life. They want us to support them. These are the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the privately owned Federal Reserve, the Bank of England. My God, it's an atrocity.
I think I have to say, once again, your opinions may not be those of this station.
Of course, that maybe. I hope, you know, but I hope they're the opinions of you. If we can just get you to think, if we can get you to stand up, if we can get you to speak out, we're going to be at that AV3 conference.
This weekend in Bristol. In Bristol.
Then I'm going to be up at St. Anne's near Blackpool.
Oh, okay.
North of Liverpool.
Lytham St. Anne's, is it?
St. Anne's. Yeah, okay. I'm going to be up there talking. And then hopefully I'm going to be in Birmingham.
Okay.
And I want to go up and talk to some Muslims at a mosque.
In Birmingham?
Yes.
Well, there is Birmingham Central Mosque. That's a very big mosque.
I'll be speaking there.
Oh, excellent, yes.
And I'm thinking about this 911 thing, Theo. I did 2 films. 911, the greatest lie ever sold. And what I would like to do...
Actually, we've got time to show a clip from that.
Oh, you have it?
Should we show that clip?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Let's show the clip.
There is going to be more terrorism, and that's what Bush wants. The internationalists got to have terrorism because it's the only way you get the American people to beg for martial law and to give up their rights. So we know more terrorism's coming. I'm a retired police officer, and we talk to police and soldiers all the time. And they all know this. There will be more terrorism. And of course, then we give up our rights, and we're going to be under martial law.
They're celebrating here in San Francisco. Behind me, you'll see the people cheering. There's not a lot to cheer about because war is on the way, regardless of what they say or what we do. This is intentional. This war was planned by Bush and the boys from the Brotherhood of Death. Blair, Bush, They're guilty of sin, guilty of murder in the first degree.
You had the attack on this military significance for purposes of making a coup from the outside. The attack on the Pentagon had no military significance except for the purpose of making a coup from the inside. If you look at the operation, the way it was run, the operation was a fairly sophisticated operation, which probably required a year to a year and a half planning to execute, with no purpose except to terrify the U.S. population and to have an effect upon the world at large. It's an inside job.
Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it.
It's an inside job.
It is time for us all to dig deeper, because this could be an inside job.
Pelted by debris when the North Tower collapsed, 7 burned until late afternoon, allowing occupants to evacuate to safety.
I remember getting a call from the fire department commander telling me that they were not sure they were going to be able to contain the fire. And I said, you know, we've had such terrible loss of life. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it. And they made that decision to pull, and then we watched the building collapse. Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it.
It's an inside job.
Maybe the smartest thing to do is pull it.
It's an inside job.
I'm about to ask you, do you see the Hitlerization or the Nazization of this nation with the passage of the Homeland Security Act, the Patriot Act, and the Anti-Terrorism Act transferring power from the people to the president and the police as occurred in Nazi Germany?
I hope you're wrong, Anthony. My experience in public life has taught me this. The greatest threat to freedom, and our founding fathers understood this, is government.
Okay, well, that was a clip from 9/11, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold. And I was particularly interested to see the clip of Larry Silverstein. Now, Larry Silverstein was the man who took a lease on the World Trade Center, which is all 7 buildings.
Just months before, and he's the recipient of about 4 or 5 billion, 1,000 million.
He took out a massive insurance policy,
right,
didn't he? Which specifically included terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center. And I'm amazed that he got a policy considering the buildings had been attacked in 1993.
Well,
but anyway, he did. And in that clip, which I think a lot of people probably have already seen, he says that he gave the order to pull it. What do you think that means?
well, pulling means, if you don't know, and let me explain it, is that you put the explosives in a building because you want to bring it down. You want to put up something else in its place. Pulling it means that you spend 3 to 4 months of research of how to pull the building down, and then bringing in a demolition team to bring it down.
Mm-hmm.
That requires months. And Silverstein is looking back and he's saying, oh, well, all of the fire was so terrible that we had
There was such a terrible loss of life.
with a terrible loss of life, we just simply had to pull it. Well, there's a little fire in Building 7.
It wasn't hit by a plane.
It wasn't hit by a plane.
And no steel frame building in the history of the world has ever collapsed because of fire, except on the day of 9/11 when 3 of them did.
What?
Apparently.
This is a revelation. You mean no steel building has ever came down
because of fire.
from fire? Even in Hiroshima, you can see that one building with the steel frame up at the top.
The dome, yes.
The dome. The atomic bomb didn't bring it down. But we find traces of thermite, which is an internal explosion, and you see as the building comes down, the explosions on the side, bam, 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 all the way on down.
Squibs, aren't they? They're described as squibs.
Have you ever flown an airplane? Maybe these people haven't. Have you flown an airplane? You see an engine over here. Huge engine is made out of steel and titanium. If Jet A fuel would melt the building, it would certainly melt the engines on the airplane. I was coming over here from Philadelphia, across the ocean. I said, my God, I'm looking out. I said, when is that? I'm worried. The engine should be melting any time. It's had more time to melt than than the Jet A fuel had in the North or South Tower. And I'm thinking, my God, are we going to make it? Well, I got here, I found out Jet A fuel cannot melt steel.
It's kerosene, isn't it?
It's kerosene. It doesn't melt. You can pour on it for 1,000 years. And then I see the North Tower hit on the films, the South Tower hit on the films.
The North Tower was hit first, but the South Tower fell first, didn't it? It was hit second, but it fell first, I believe.
Yes.
And then the North Tower fell, and then Building 7. But Building 6 also suffered a weird explosion.
Well, you know, Theo...
Apparently. Allegedly. So I've been told.
I'm thinking on this show, and if you haven't got the answer, I've made this film. I've got it in 23 countries in 7 languages. I would like to see this information concerning 911, the greatest lie ever sold. Sold. I'd like you to buy it. Purchase it. No, not really buy it. Just make a donation to this station. Would you make a donation to this station? I'm willing to give you that film for free.
Which one? 9/11.
9/11.
The greatest lie ever sold.
For
that's
the next 6
of
months. If you would like to find out about this story, I'm willing to give my rights to it for England so that this station can thrive. It's essential that Theo's show be seen by millions of people. You say, why would I do this? Because I feel it's necessary. You know, you take that...
it's a dollar bill, isn't it?
The $20 bill.
$20 bill.
And I know you're going to have to come in sort of close, but you take this thing, and I'm thinking these Rothschilds and Rockefellers and these guys are all into, you know, that black robe stuff, and you may have seen the Uncle Sam, you know, with the goat beard. It's the beard of a goat. And then his hat, it flanges out just like the horns of the goat of Baphomet. And that goat sort of face, that's the half man, half woman. And I started to put that together. The Arabs have been saying, well, Uncle Sam is Satan. I said, oh, no, no, it could not be. Uncle Sam is our guy. You know, serve Uncle Sam. We want you. He's pointing like that. I said, wait a minute, let's take a look at that demonic goat, the goat of Baphomet, the goat of Mendez. So I took it, and I sort of moved it over Uncle Sam. The hairs matched up. The eyes matched up. The configuration of the hat matched up the horns. The pentagram in the center matched up. Uncle Sam is Satan. But the $20 bill, these guys, this was really amazing. I was in London. And I'm folding the dollar bill, and I said, well, you know, what if these guys were into numerology and thinking 9/11, that's the day, the number of an emergency, 9/11, emergency, emergency, emergency. It's a 4-alarm fire. So we took the 9 and 11, put it together, that makes 20. And made it into like a little glider that flies around like we, you know, you were all kids. We threw these things in school, upset some of the girls. And you folded and defolded it and messed around with it. And my God, what's this? Maybe you can come in. Just bring in this. This is a $20 bill. The 9 and the 11, Theo, makes 20.
Okay.
Then on one side, it's got United, like United Airlines. That was one of the airlines. The other airlines is American Airlines over here.
And it says America.
And then you have the city, this is symbolic of the city of New York. The North Tower, the explosion at the top. The South Tower, about a third of the way down. At the bottom, and we forgot this, we see this ST. Well, this is symbolic of the city of New York, the North and South Tower, exactly where they were hit. And then on the other side, an IN. ST is an abbreviation for saint, I believe.
Yes, saint.
And then the IN, you know what that is, Saint N. No. You think that you think maybe Obama bin Laden. Obama bin Laden? Osama bin Laden, Obama bin Laden, it's hard to tell. You think they had control over the Federal Reserve, or was it the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, those guys who wear those black robes and go out to places like, what is it, Hell's Fire Club, years ago? No.
Bohemian Grove.
Oh, and the Bohemian Grove, yes, the Bohemian Grove.
Yeah, the Hellfire Club in High Wycombe you're talking about.
Yes. And I went in there, and I think that some of those girls that were brought in there by those guys wearing masks like the devil may not have always had a good time. And I turned this thing over, and here's, it's the Pentagon, which is the interior of the pentagram, on fire with the explosion in the center. See, it's really, it's not, Theo, it's not a matter of what building they can hit, it's a matter of what window they can hit. This is planned well in advance, and on this film, when you get it, and I hope that...
It is, I've got to say, it is quite impressive, but I think a lot of people will think it's just too coincidental, isn't it?
Oh, it's just coincidental. It's like 137.5 trillion to 1 that this could be. Of course, those odds a little high for you. A trillion is 1,000 billion, it's 100 and... I can't even, the numbers...
That's virtually 2 Zimbabwean banknotes.
Yes, oh my God. And I look at all of this stuff that's happening. I'd like you guys to have this film. I'd like this station to be, I'd like you to be on 24
It's not my station, I have to say.
But a day. No, it's not your station. You've got a show, but you've got one of the damn best shows that's out there on this island nation. You're allowing people who come forth with views like mine, and you don't have to accept my views. I would like you to investigate, prove that I'm wrong, that Jet A fuel can burn steel beams. Prove it. And you know, here's what's really amazed me. I heard the story that the FBI, that's what we call it in the States, the FBI didn't know who did this thing. They said that this Muhammad Atta was on this plane. There's 19 terrorists.
With box cutters.
Oh, with box cutters. And I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about that. Of the 19 terrorists, 7 are still alive. I can take my camera over here, and I can go out and I can do interviews with 7 of these guys that the FBI says did it, and they're still alive. Oh, and there's one other one. He was dead before the event. Dead men don't fly planes. Dead men don't fly planes? The live ones didn't fly it either because they couldn't have gone through the building. And we're told...
Well, there's no... Interestingly, there are no photographs of any of the terrorists at any of the airports, like Logan, for instance, or Boston Airport, going onto those planes that were hijacked apparently on that day. There are no photographs or CCTV pictures of those people.
You know?
Allegedly.
You know, you're
so
right.
So I have read.
Excuse me, Theo, but you're absolutely right, my God. No terrorist. In fact, there's no Arab names on any of the flight manifests. Not a one. And you know how strict they are. You know how strict they are. Not a single one. And then, but if the 7 weren't on it, and the 1 was dead before the event, that would mean that you take 8 from the 19, that leaves 11. Let's go.
There were 4 planes, so that's, you know.
Yes. So that's 2
to 3 people each plane.
Yes, 2 men to take over the cockpit. And that would leave, well, 3/4 of a man.
We're going for another break now. Sorry, once again. Actually, the text's not working. I'm sorry. So see you back here again in a few seconds. Thank you. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Anthony J. Hilder. Now, Anthony, I think we need to just kind of rein you in a second and ask you a little bit about how you got involved in the truth movement. I know you've been in it for a long time, and you've done a lot of stuff. You've been a radio talk show host. You've made lots of films. You've made lectures and speeches all over the world. How on earth did you get involved in it?
Well, I was about 12 or 13 years old.
Okay.
And like most kids, I was reading comic books, like reading this. And my uncle and my friend, his friend, was in the FBI. They were playing pinochle across. I was in San Francisco. And I was raised to praise Roosevelt. It's like you guys were raised to praise Heath and
I don't know if
and you know
I don't know if we're raised
Churchill and people like that. But I thought that, you know, I was for God, freedom, and apple pie. And I heard all of the news, and I was a supporter of the war effort, and heard about the horrible thing that happened on December 7th, 1941, the Pearl Harbor attack.
Pearl Harbor, yes.
And I was a young, faithful
FDR,
kid,
Roosevelt,
yes,
wasn't it?
Right, and I would collect cans and pieces of metal, turn them in. I had my little victory garden, and everything was going good. I dug my foxholes, and I was going rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat to kill the dirty yellow-bellied Jap. You know, get that Hun, that Hitler guy, you know. And we had the little planes, and we were flying them, and I was so...
Yes, because for a long time, of course, America didn't make up its mind who the enemy was, did it?
Well, see, the American Congress did not want to vote to support Britain in the war against
Well, the American people didn't want to go to war.
No, they didn't want to. But they had to get involved in this fight. They had to get them, because Churchill was on the phone with Roosevelt, and he said, listen, buddy, we've got a problem over here with this Uncle Adolf Hitler. I know some of your boys, like Senator Prescott Bush, financed Adolf Hitler through Brown Brothers Harriman. And some of your other bankster friends supported
And Prescott
Adolf
Bush,
Hitler.
of course, was George Bush, the first president's father.
Oh, that's true.
And the second Bush's president's grandfather. And
That's
Prescott
right.
Bush, and the reason we can say that is because he was actually censured after the war for financing the Nazis. So it's not like I have to make an apology for
That
saying
sort of
that.
brings it around to Adolf Hitler's dream come true, and George Skullenbones Bush. Oh, you don't know about Skullenbones.
And you've made a film about Skullenbones, but let's not talk about that just yet, because we're still playing pinochle in the yard in San Francisco.
I'm reading the comic book, guys, and I'm looking, and my uncle and his friend in the FBI, and I say the guy was a friend of mine because he informed me what was going on. He was talking about how they covered up, the FBI covered up the Pearl Harbor attack. They knew about it before it occurred. They welcomed it. They provoked the Japanese. They tried to get the Japanese to attack the United States. The Purple Code had been broken, just like the Enigma Code over here was...
At Bletchley Park.
Yeah, I mean, they got the information of what was going on with Hitler.
At Station X, as it was called.
Yes, and I was over there today, just not far from here. And I'm looking, you know, I'm hearing all of this information. They did all of this stuff to what? To allow the attack at Pearl Harbor, which murdered 3,000 men. My father was in the military over here in Bermuda.
It's interesting, isn't it, that the death toll in Pearl Harbor was very similar to the death toll at the new Pearl Harbor.
Well, the new Pearl
9/11.
The new Pearl Harbor is even greater an atrocity than the atrocity committed by the United States government, by Roosevelt and by Churchill, and there's a recording between the two which validates that Churchill knew about that to draw us into war. 50 million people died. 50 million died. Your brothers, your mothers, your sisters, your daughters fought and died for what? A war that was financed out of the United States of America by the banksters? And George Skull and Bones Bush's grandfather laid nude in the coffin that the Skull and Bones was born again into the Satanic Order.
Both George W. Bush and George Bush, H.W. Bush.
President George Herbert Walker Bush, in the Skull and Bones, his name was Magog. That means the guy that wages war against God in the final days of Earth. Do they have satanic rituals at the Skull and Bones? Yes, at the Hell's Fire Club. I look at the book. I look at this book, and at the back it says, printed by the Yale Press in London and in New Haven, Connecticut.
Well, you've made a film about Skull and Bones as well, haven't you?
Yes.
What's that called?
Skull and Bones, the Catholic Connection. Oh,
and,
it's not all
we've got a clip of that.
Yes.
So if we're ready for that, let's show that clip, shall we?
Do you have
those who own the major media, control and manipulate the news? Haven't they been coming up with things like, is God dead? Life magazine and Time magazine were both founded by Henry Luce, and who is I would say, a practicing Luciferian. He laid nude in the coffin at the Skull and Bones and was born into the Satanic Order. Who better would be chosen to say that God is dead and try to... Every Easter you see something like this. They try to
perfect timing.
Smear and smash and degrade Catholicism and Christianity. Is this by design, or is it by...
Absolutely, yeah. It's too coincidental to be just happening on its own. It's intended, it's orchestrated, and then there's a media blitz to offend everyone, like during Lent, before Easter. And it's blasphemy.
How does the theology of General Albert Pike, practicing Luciferian, connect with Anton LaVey from the First Church of Satan in San Francisco and Aleister Crowley?
Different denominations within the occult world. Just like in Christianity now, there isn't one single church as there was centuries ago. At one time there was just a Catholic Church for 15 centuries, and then with the Protestant Revolution, then the different denominations sprang up and split off from each other. The same thing in the occult world. The Luciferians are not Satanists specifically. In other words, they're two different denominations, but from the Christian viewpoint there's no difference at all. If you're worshiping Lucifer, or you say, well, I'm not a Luciferian, I'm a Satanist, or someone says, I'm a Satanist, not a Luciferian, I mean, it's a no-brainer for a Catholic or a serious Christian. But in the occult world, they make these distinctions. And then there's some who wear two hats. They'll be a Luciferian and a Satanist.
How about Bill Buckley, who says that he is a Catholic and he is a conservative, and he's now said, well, if I had to do it again, he might be a communist, or he would be a communist. How does...
Maybe he meant he would declare himself a communist.
Yeah, but how does his philosophy, or in this case maybe theosophy, which certainly has the taint of some sort of satanic order, when you lie down nude in the coffin, you're born again in the Satanic
Skull and Bones, yeah.
And then you profess to be a Christian conservative and put out this publication,
it's hogwash.
National Review. Is there any individuals associated with this magazine who isn't wearing...
From what I understand about Skull and Bones, first of all, it's the second chapter of a German secret society that would fall into the category of a Black Lodge. And we're talking about the Illuminati here.
We're talking about the order and sect of the Illuminati.
That's right, yeah.
Luciferians.
It has its roots back to Adam Weishaupt. The ritual and I guess you could say, the occult theosophy or theology or practice of initiation into Skull and Bones, from what I've read about it, from what I've been able to learn, and in reflecting on it, would be specifically satanic, especially when they have a patriarch, a Bones patriarch, and one of them was the former Supreme Court Justice Potter Stewart, who was dressed up as the devil one year during the initiation of the 15 candidates. And by the way, during the 2004 presidential campaign, John Kerry was asked about Supreme Court justices, and he, without batting an eye, said, well, his favorite was Potter Stewart.
Wasn't Kerry initiated into the Skull and Bones in 1966? And then
that's right. Bush in 1968.
Victor Ashe, Bush's roommate, in 1967, and then Bush himself in 1968.
Right.
And then that story about Victor Ashe and Bush being more than just roommates, but...
No, we got... cut off there just before that piece of libel, no doubt.
You don't want to get into the rest of the story, but
no, I think we probably don't, actually. But let's talk about Skull and Bones a bit more. Let's talk about the ritual, the induction ritual. Do you know about that?
Well, in the initiation, they are in their senior year invited
at Yale.
At Yale. Mm-hmm. They take off all of their clothes. They're laying down naked. They masturbate, surrounded by 15 guys in black robes.
And they're in a coffin, aren't they?
They're in a coffin. Now,
they say, we have to say we don't know this, though, do we? We don't actually. This is just
no. We do in fact know that this is the initiation. There's been several films called Skulls. In fact, we're going to.
I saw that film.
And that's sort of the fictional
Hollywood,
fictional Hollywoodish thing. And going back to when I was a kid, you know, and I saw this and I said, this blew my whole illusion of what the president was. And I began to search for what was going on behind the scenes. We all see something up there, but it's like in The Wizard of Oz. We see Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Straw Man,
and the Lion.
And then there's Toto. And they're going down the yellow brick road, and we're all going down the yellow brick road to the Emerald City. And they come in, they see, you know, Oz, and whoa, and everything. But oh God, you know, oh.
That's just a guy hiding behind a curtain, isn't it?
And then Toto pulls back the curtain. We've got to look behind the curtain. Theo, your show, and I'm not just saying this, brother, your show is so important. It allows guys like me to come on and talk about the truth. This country depends upon shows like yours. This is no joke. You got to support this station. That's why I'm going to give you the right to sell 911, the greatest lie ever sold. Well, here it is. I'm going to give you the right to sell this. You can take all of the money and contribute it to this station. And I think if you would like to help this country, you should support this station.
Well, if people, I should say, if people do want to donate to the station, then they can go to edgemediatv.com, and there is a button there for people who wish to donate, and all donations will be gratefully accepted.
Well, I hope you give them, you know, if they, you know, you give 20 quid or more, you get a copy of this.
Yeah.
You got the right. I mean, I'm giving it to you.
Again, we need to sort this out, obviously.
Yes, of course. I mean, I'm willing to do that.
That's very kind
Are you
of
willing to help the station? I'm willing to. I don't live here. You live here. This is your country. It's not mine, but in a way, it's mine because my grandmother was born here. My grandfather was born here, and I'm.
Where are the Hilders from then?
I guess English, German, both. You know. But I love the country. I don't want to see it. I came about 10,000 miles to come over to do this show. This is one of the reasons I came here.
Well, you're also speaking on Sunday at AV3.
At AV3 in
Bristol.
In St. Anne's, and then in Birmingham at the Mosque.
Lytham St. Anne's, yeah.
See, there's a war against Islam. And about that 911 thing, we were talking about the 19 terrorists. Well, the 19 terrorists, well, it winds up that the 9 or 8 are still alive. 1 was dead before the event. And that means that 2 people to take over the cockpit. That meant that there was just the 4, the ones that were left. I mean, they would have to be 3/4 of a man. I mean, they would have to be up there on crutches. Because you can't have a whole man because there was only 11 left. And then the story that we get, oh, they're not on the flight manifest, no, that this Muhammad Atta was in the plane. It smacks up against the building, the steel.
Mm-hmm.
He goes through the steel, he goes through the concrete, the furniture, the toilets, the electric, the walls, the more steel.
The columns,
the interior, the structure, all of the steel.
Massive interior steel columns.
Right, and all engulfed in a ball of flame that's supposed to melt this? Are you kidding? You saw the ball of flame, the half of the fuel go out on the second blast. And he goes in through the side, that he evaporates and just disappears, and guess what's left? His passport survives all of this, and it drops down to the ground. Muhammad Atta's passport. Because the FBI was said to go over the next day. You know what they did? They were walking over on this molten steel, and they're walking along, and they looked at, looking all over, and they said, there must be some clue. And the FBI guy says, hey, come here, take a look at this. He said, what's that? He says, well, it's a passport. I mean, it went through the steel, it went through the concrete, it went through the war doors and the windows, and they reached down, they said, what is this? Reached it up from the molten steel. They opened it up. My God, it's the passport of Muhammad Atta. Oh, my God. Now we know who all of these terrorists were, and we'll have it in the papers across America in the morning.
That was a bit of luck, wasn't it? Wasn't that extraordinarily lucky?
Oh, God. And I'm thinking about this. Of course, it's true. The FBI wouldn't lie. It had to be made out of kryptonite. Because kryptonite is the only thing that could possibly survive this human holocaust.
Well, normally, the black boxes survived, don't they? But on 9/11, they didn't.
No, it evaporated the black boxes.
Both of the ones, the South and the North Tower boxes, were never found, apparently.
Gone. But they found the passport. Oh, man, I have kryptonite. My God almighty. What a wonderful thing that happened for America and for Britain. And you've got a thing called 7/7, and if...
Well, let's...
Do you believe the greatest lie ever sold? I want you guys to take my film. I want you to, I'd like you guys to see the whole thing. Obama bin Bush, Obama bin Laden, Obama bin Blair. This whole story that I'm hearing at 7/7 sounds strangely like this story that I heard about Hitler in the burning of the Reichstag.
We're doing a program on, we've done one program on 7/7. We had Daniel Obuchiki on the program. He was one of the survivors of the bus bomb. Mm-hmm. He wrote a book called The Fourth Bomb, and he's been on this show. And we've got another guest. I'm not going to say who it is yet, but next week we're doing a show about 7/7.
God, I wish...
So that should be... So watch that show next week, and I think it will be a very interesting show indeed.
I'm seeing all of this stuff that's happening. The Enabling Act in Germany allowed Hitler to come into office.
Uh-huh.
The 9/11 atrocity allowed the Homeland Security Act to be passed.
Patriot Act.
The Patriot Act, yes. And this Peter Mandelson.
Peter Mandelson, he's the dark prince of British politics.
I'm not saying, he's wearing one of those black robes or anything like that, but, I am a bit suspicious of some of these people who walk around and profess to be telling us the truth.
Mm-hmm.
If you could only know the truth. If you could only once just see beyond the horizon. If you support this show like you should, if you support this station like you should, and I'm concerned, I'm an American, I'm concerned about this nation. I'm concerned about you being afforded the opportunity to turn on the television and seeing the truth, but you're not getting it from the BBC. You're not getting it from the managed media in the United States, and the money that you're being flogged with. I said flogged? I don't know if that's the right answer, but you're being screwed and you're being glued and they want you to be tattooed. Their program is to reduce the population of the planet 90%. 9 out of 10. Out of the 60 million, that would mean 54 million leaving the population of 6. In the United States, there's a thing. You know, it's not Stonehenge. I went by there and saw it in the dark. There's a thing called the Georgia Guidestones at the top, in stone at the top.
Yeah, we've had people talking about the Georgia Guidestones on here.
It says
that
they want to reduce the population of the planet by 90%. That probably means you. There isn't anything that you've got, or ever had, or ever hope to have. They're not planning to take it away. They want it all.
I've just been handed a note here, just because Anthony is speaking at the AV3 on Sunday, but also he's speaking at the New Horizons group in Lytham St Anne's, in the St Anne's Community Centre, next to the YMCA, on the 16th of November, Monday, 16th of November, if you'd like to go to that. It's at 7 o'clock.
And in Birmingham.
I don't know about the Birmingham, but it's the Central Mosque, is it?
Yes.
And I've also got a note here. Ask him about his radio show. So there you go.
Well, I mean...
Tell me about your radio show, Anthony.
In Alaska.
In Alaska, is it?
Yeah, I had a show there, and a friend of mine bought the station, put $1 million up to buy a station so I could go on
Was it
the air.
in Anchorage? Or?
In Anchorage.
Yes.
And we had an election. And people say, well, no, we can't do it. There's nothing we can do. We put up a candidate from the Alaskan Independence Party, and I'm in the Alaskan Independence Party.
Is that a party which lobbies for independence for Alaska?
Yes.
From the United States?
That's correct. That's what the Free World Alliance is about. I wanted secession for Alaska.
Okay.
I'd like secession for Scotland. Yes. Oh, yeah. I'd like secession for Jersey. I'd like secession for all of the tribal linguistic nation states in Africa.
Is there any chance whatsoever of Alaska becoming an independent state?
Yes, there is, because there's a bunch of tribal nation groups in there. I'm an honorary Chickaloon in Hawaii. I want to see Hawaii.
And there's Inuit as well, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see Hawaii become independent because it was taken over. But the major thing is, with all of this, we all have a chance to be free. But we don't have an opportunity to survive unless we wake up, unless there's this great, huge, massive awakening. Oh, in Alaska, the odds were about 70 to 1 that we could elect somebody from the Alaskan Independence Party. We got in Wally Hickel and a fellow named Coghill from the North Pole in Alaska. And I campaigned night after night after night after night, bet against insurmountable odds. Along comes the election. We elected the first independent candidate in the 20th century.
This is for what post? This is for
governor.
Governor of Alaska.
Right.
Wasn't there that woman, the pit bull with lipstick? What was her name? Wasn't she?
Oh no, that's Sarah
Sarah Palin, wasn't she?
That's down the line, brother.
Is it?
This is the first time an independent was brought in. We put in the first freedom of choice in medicine. Mm-hmm. The FDA, the
Federal Drugs Administration.
Yes, and the AMA, the American Medical Association, brought in lobbyists to try to defeat a proposal of a friend of mine, Edgar Paul Boyko, the former Attorney General of the state of Alaska, and another friend of mine, Dr. Robert Rowan. We all worked together to put up to this thing, and I had these guys on over and over and over. We lost the election to put this legislation in. And I said, we haven't lost yet, and you haven't lost yet with the Lisbon Treaty, because we can bring this into the hands of the people. I worked day after day after day for about a week to 10 days. They took another vote in Juneau.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Juneau is a city in Alaska.
That's the capital of Alaska. Yeah. And guess what? They had more response than any other legislative issue in the state of Alaska, and we won. Anthony, now there's 17 stations.
I've got to break in there. We're going to go for another break now. Sadly, the texts aren't working, so you won't be able to text, I'm afraid. But we'll see you back here again after the break. Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Anthony J. Hilder. Anthony, just before the break there, we were talking about elections in Alaska that you were campaigning for an independent. The independent got in and changed the law about medical.
Well, we have freedom of choice in medicine.
Yeah.
What I'm telling them is not just on this issue. When you think that you have lost it all, when you know that the country is said to have lost it, and Britain the end, and we're in the darkest days, and Churchill said, you know, we're not going to defeat, we're going to fight, we're going to fight, we're going to fight. We will create a constitution here. And it will not be approved by, because they don't want a constitution to protect the people from them. It's them against us. The pimps and prostitutes in the parliament here are selling out to the highest bidder. And the highest bidder simply prints this fiat funny money and issues it to us. Now, you were taking a look at the silver coins.
I was, yeah, it's very nice.
This is one that I paid $1 for. Oh, it's not silver, it's copper.
What is it? Let me see it.
It's a copper coin. Remember the old British penny?
I do, yeah. This is Liberty again, 2007. Trust in God again. $1, copper, 1 AV ounce. So
Yeah.
Is this legal currency?
No. See, they took all away our legal currency. They even took the copper out of our pennies. So the dollar is now worth a penny. But it's not going to be that valuable. And do not think that this new world order, this neo-Nazi fascistic state that is taking hold of this country will be as kind as Adolf Hitler. They have out-Hitlered Hitler at the height of his hysteria. In communist China, they've murdered 100 million people. They eat aborted babies. One doctor was asked.
Whoa, you can't.
No.
You cannot
I'm
say
not.
that.
I am saying that because she was asked, "Why would you do that?" He said, "Well, anything else would be a waste." I've been in communist China. I've been in Manchuria.
I do have to say again that any opinions expressed by my guest are his alone.
I want you to check it out.
Well, I've never heard that. I've heard of dying rooms for orphans where they have too many.
Well, there's 100 million people lost their lives under communism because, see, communism is not a thing that has been created by the masses to overthrow the banking establishment. It's a creation of the banking establishment to overthrow and enslave the masses. It was never started in Moscow or Beijing or Hanoi or Havana. It's always been run from New York, from London, in Washington, D.C.
Well, Karl Marx is buried in London, in Highgate Cemetery.
Right.
Engels worked in London. A lot of those people, a lot of the thinkers behind communism,
and the big
worked and thought in London.
Financiers through the League of Just underwrote Karl Marx and Engels. They put the money in there because they weren't satisfied with owning the nation's currency. They wanted to own a nation's people. A third of the people in England now work for the government. The industry has been exported. Slave labor has been imported. They are looking at 9,000 new regulations brought in through this Lisbon Treaty and now this Copenhagen Agreement to enslave the people in this nation. Now, don't think it's over.
Well, let's talk a bit more about this.
That lady hasn't sung, but she is rehearsing.
Well, let's talk about this population reduction that you spoke about earlier. You said that, the Georgia Guidestones, for instance, say that the population of the planet should be 500 million, 500 million people.
Yes.
Instead of what we have now, which is, 6 billion or so. Maybe 7, I never quite know where it is, but it's up in those kind of numbers. So let us assume for a moment that the New World Order, the Illuminati, if you like, wish to reduce the population of the world, and it looks like they're already trying to blame us for global warming. There are too many people, and for degradation of the species, too many people, and so on. Let's say that that is the agenda. How will they do it?
How they plan to do it?
Yeah.
See, I have nothing against reducing the population of this planet. I think there should be population reduction. But let us start with them.
Well, you wouldn't want to forcibly reduce the population of the planet, would you?
Well, why not? I mean, they want to forcibly kill 90% of us. Let's start with those who are talking about reducing the population of the planet. Let's have them volunteer to die. Their families, their friends, the banksters.
Well, that's not going to happen. Would you
it's not,
involuntarily dispose of them, Anthony? Is that what you're saying? We should involuntarily dispose of
here's what
the Illuminati.
Yes. I'm
saying sort of pre-revenge. Get your revenge in sooner than.
No, I'm saying it's them or us. It's them or us. You take your choice. Is it going to be you? And there's millions and billions of you, and there's just a handful of them. Are you going to give your nation to this handful of elitists, illuminists? I made the Illuminati CFR records with Myron Fagan in 1967. It's 42 years ago.
CFR is the Council of Foreign Relations.
The Council on Foreign Relations. At that time, there were 17,000 or 18,000 people in the world that knew about it. By 1970, we guesstimated about 34.5 million people had heard the records.
Now, this is a vinyl record you've got.
Vinyl records. Now the story is out about the Illuminati to over 1 billion people. Can you do it? Can we save our country? How about
that
our
sounds
children?
like Obama. Can we do it?
Well,
or
he says a change.
Or that Bob the Builder, perhaps.
He says, you know, the change? What change? There's no change. It's like in the Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Bogart was surrounded.
Bogart, yeah.
Yeah, Bogart and
was it Peter
Walter
Fonda?
Houston. No,
it wasn't. Wrong
and
one.
anyhow, they were surrounded by this Mexican bandits. And they said that they were, you know, he says, if you guys are, you know, if you guys are the police, you know, you would have badges. And he looks up and he says, we don't need no badges. We don't need no badges. You know, we're to assume that these people are in positions of power and they can tell us what to do, where to go, where to shove it. Obama, they say, well, he says, well, we're going to make a change. In Frankenfed, we say there is no change. Bernanke. And then Geithner, who's head of the Federal Reserve, was appointed to head the Treasury of the United States, and that's a change. There's no change. There's simply an escalation. We're going further and further in and deeper under.
So you haven't quite answered the question, and you've suggested a solution in terms of depopulation of culling them, but I think that's probably not going to happen anytime soon, is it?
Well, I'm not thinking that, you know, you go out and kill them, possibly medical experiments. You know?
No, I think we have to get back on a more solid ground here, Anthony, and obviously we don't want to suggest to anybody that they take the law into their own hands. So
I'm suggesting we do exactly that. We create a new constitution prohibiting them from stealing our land, from killing our people, from vaccinating our children, from reducing the population by 90%. I say it's criminal, and the criminals need be indicted and thrown in jail where they belong. They have no business telling
well, you're talking about the rule of law now. You're saying that the rule of law is good. Okay, well, that's good, because I was getting worried that you were going to suggest...
It's a lawful rebellion. That is exactly what the UK colony is doing.
Okay, well, let's talk
about a lawful rebellion.
Fantastic. Lawful rebellion. Okay, as long as it's lawful, I think we're probably on safer ground. But you are saying that what they're planning to do is clearly not lawful if they're going to kill 9 out of 10 people on this planet. And what I wanted to ask you was, has it started? Has the cull started? If so, how is it manifested?
Well, you say, how has it started? In Senegal, Uganda, Zaire, Haiti, and Brazil, the smallpox vaccines were forcibly given to the natives. In the gay community, the hepatitis B vaccine shots in the gay bars. I had one gay guy on my show. He said, well, Anthony, it's true. What you're saying is true. I said, come on the show. He said, no, I can't do that. I said, you've got to come on my show. You've got to validate it. He did.
And he came on and he said what? That AIDS was inside the hepatitis B vaccine?
Well, no, he said in the hepatitis B vaccine shots, the Public Health Service came over and gave those who were sexually active at the gay bar, those who volunteered to take the shots.
And these were hep B shots?
Yes, hepatitis B shots. And they said, well, they weren't fooling around with other guys. He said, but they wanted to take it. Of the 11 who took it in that gay bar, 11 died. 100% don't.
And what did they die
your
of?
Vaccination, your child vaccinated.
They died of AIDS, did they?
They died of AIDS.
But you're not suggesting, are you, I'm sure, that, for instance, the vaccination that we're going to get at the moment for the swine flu, H1N1 flu, has got AIDS in it, are you?
No, I'm not suggesting that, but all of these people who want to give these shots, let's start with giving these shots to all of the workers who want to force the shots on you, and let's get the Rockefellers, get this guy Mandelson. Let's get him to take the shot.
Mandelson.
Yes. Let's get Blair and Brown and Bush and Obama. Let's get all of these guys lined up let's give this stuff to their children, their wives. Let's start with them, and then let's give it a test. Let's test it and see if it works. And if it works on them, maybe we'll consider getting it. But it's got to be a choice.
Well, when the MMR vaccine a few years ago was being pushed very hard by the Labour government, a lot of people were saying that it caused autism. And all the experts came on television and said, there's no evidence that it causes autism. And then people asked Tony Blair whether his children had had the MMR jab, and he refused to say. So, no doubt, Anthony, you can draw your own conclusions.
Tony Blair is talking out of both sides of his nose. That's Tony Blair. Is he going to tell you the truth? What does that mean?
Is that some American
He didn't tell you the truth about the Lisbon Treaty. He didn't tell you the truth about surrendering the sovereignty of this country. They're not taking the shots. They want you to take the shots. They don't want you to be happy. They want you to be unhappy. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to have sovereignty. They don't want you to have independence. They plan on taking it away. They want it all. See, freedom is choice, and choice is freedom. A world that is free is not united. A world united is not free. You can't have both. It doesn't work. The Free World Alliance, you go to freeworldalliance.com, freeworldalliance.com, and you can get to me. And I would like to come back to this beautiful nation and see it free. Not trouble, but a constitution.
But Anthony, a lot of people think, and obviously I'm not putting words into their mouth, but I think the assumption is there that a lot of people who live in this country think that they are free. They think that their fathers or their grandfathers fought in the Second World War for their freedoms, and everything is enshrined in, our unwritten constitution, and they have the right to vote for the members of Parliament and the MEPs and their local councillors. And they believe, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people, that they are free. How do you, if you don't believe this is the case, how do you disabuse them of this?
My God. It's, it's unimental thinking that they're going for. It's the public school system is the public fool system.
Oh, it has a different meaning.
They don't teach you to think, they teach you to learn, to speak. One thought, one world, common purpose. Oh, and the common purpose? World government.
Well, we've had a Brian Gerrish on here talking about common purpose. And
Brian Gerrish is a brilliant man.
Yeah, he was.
Ian Crane is a brilliant man.
Yeah, both
this
speaking
guy
on
named
the
Harris
weekend.
is a brilliant man.
John Harris has been on this show as well.
And these guys have got it together. And guess who's allowing them? Who is allowing them to get on the air? This man here. He's giving you an opportunity, and you've got to understand that this opportunity is not going to exist forever. It's going to evaporate if you don't cooperate. This station needs sponsors. Here's your opportunity to sponsor these guys. I'm saying on our film, 911, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, you can use it. You can use anything that we've got. It's not a matter of money. It's a matter of the movement.
Anthony, it's really very, very kind of you, and we certainly will look at this and address it, and I assure you that this will be addressed. However, I think we need to talk about population reduction. I think we need to, how are they going to do it? What's going to be, if you're saying it's vaccines, it's something in the vaccines, what is it going to be?
There's a number of things. They can do it by war, biological warfare, chemical warfare, the fluorides, the poisons.
Well, it is astonishing, isn't it, that not all water in the UK is fluoridated, but quite a lot is. And all toothpaste is, even for children, even baby toothpaste is fluoridated, and yet it is a recognised poison.
Well, listen, it has worked well for Hitler. Hitler used it in the death camps because it could slow down the thinking of the people, and they cough and they choke, and some of them die. Fluoride is poison. If you buried this stuff out in the yard, if you took the fillings of somebody's teeth and put it buried it in the yard, you'd get arrested. But they say, well, it's okay, they could put it in your teeth. They could put the mercury in your teeth.
It's a side product of aluminium production, or as you say in America, aluminum.
Aluminum
production.
And you look up and you say, what? How are they going to do this? And just for once in your life, look up. Don't look over here at the Labor Party and the Conservative Party. It's like a ping pong match and you're going back and forth and back and forth. That is not where the game is. Look at the strings. Where do they lead? They lead up there. The enemy is up there. The enemy's not down here.
Behind the green curtain.
Behind the green curtain. Pull back the curtain. The monetary system is there. And what is going on? Aluminum oxide and barium.
We talk about chemtrails now.
In Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, in Bakersfield, California. I look up and they're crisscrossing all over, and you see this residue coming down. They're killing our people. They're poisoning our people. They will do whatever is necessary to kill you, control you, or incarcerate you. Their intent is a new world order. The European Union is Hitler's dream come true. We must have a constitution. We must have a constitution to defend our rights, our liberty.
But you've got one.
No, I'm talking about our rights and our liberty. I'm here in Britain right now.
Yeah, but you Americans have got a constitution.
And it's being destroyed.
It looks like it's, well, exactly. So what's the point? If we had a constitution, a written constitution,
what is the point?
Then wouldn't ours be being destroyed in the same way? Possibly, potentially.
We are being destroyed in the same way,
Let's talk about chemtrails. You just brought up chemtrails. Do you think chemtrails, if they exist, are part of this population reduction?
Oh my God, I
feel constrained to say that.
I can't believe my ears. What did you?
Sorry,
you said if they exist. Of course they exist. Every one of you have seen them. Every single person has seen them.
Okay, so if let us assume then for a moment that they do exist and that they do contain some kind of noxious chemicals.
Who's paying for them?
Well, it hardly matters who's paying for them. The fact that they're there would be the problem.
No, but who's paying for them?
Well, I imagine we are.
We're paying for our own poisoning? Stop it. Stop the taxes. And, you're going down the street and there's a big flash over here and we just about ran off the road. I said, my God, what is that? Holy mackerel. It's a ticket. Have you voted for this?
What do you mean? Oh, you mean a speeding camera?
The speeding cameras. You go into London, they are out Orwell. In the 1984 was written in the BBC.
Well, apparently we have, in the UK, we have more cameras of every kind, of surveillance cameras
than any other place in the world.
Systems and speed cameras, than any other place in the world.
It's Big Brotherment.
Apparently, we on average get photographed by cameras 300 times a day, or so I have read.
300 times a day. This out Orwell, it out Hitler at the height of his hysteria.
Yeah.
And it's all around you. And how can you not see it? A friend of mine wrote a screenplay called Chinatown, Bobtown.
Oh, that was the Jack Nicholson film,
Yes.
wasn't it? And was it Faye Dunaway?
Faye Dunaway, yes. And,
Fantastic
and he
film,
was
and he had his
slapping-
nose cut, didn't he? With
yes, and it's a Polanski movie. In fact,
Polanski, yeah.
A friend of mine is, in fact, I'm in the movie, Polanski Unabridged. And a friend of mine, Damien Chapa, did this.
Yeah, great film.
But I go back and I take a look at that film, and Dunaway is being asked by Nicholson, "Who is this girl?" He says, she says, "My daughter." And he slaps her. And he says, "Who is the girl?" He says, "My sister." He slaps her again. And it's back and forth and back and forth. It's like the tennis match, back and forth. Both were true. You think that it couldn't possibly be true. You're being raped. You're being robbed. You're being ravished. You haven't lost your country. No, it's still, our parliament can go in there. My God, can you? I'm talking about the pimps and prostitutes along the Potomac. I'm talking about the pimps and prostitutes in this parliament.
The Potomac River is the river that bounds Washington, D.C., doesn't it? The Potomac River is the river that separates Washington, D.C. from Virginia.
Yes. I wish we could.
Just to fill in the blanks here a bit.
I wish we could cut off, we could just cut off Washington, D.C. If there was an earthquake in Washington, D.C., and the earth just opened up and Washington was just swallowed and disappeared to the face of the earth. I mean, the inner face of the earth, the core of the earth. Or we could take all of these liberal politicians who are putting forth this beautiful legislation for everybody, just have them get into this giant rocket and let's send them off to explore the surface of the moon. No, no.
The surface of the sun.
No. In fact, that's exactly.
Did I steal your punchline there,
You stole
Anthony?
it.
I'm
yes,
so
it is.
sorry.
It's not just the surface of the moon, but when they get to the moon, they figure, well, there's not much there. To have them try the surface of the sun.
Yeah.
For freedom to live, they must die. I mean, I'm talking about those who perpetrate, those who commit the murders. We cannot allow the Adolf Hitler's philosophy and the new world order, the new Hitlers, the warlocks of Washington and Wall Street, the witches and bitches and bureaucrats and banksters to control this country, or America. We can take it back. In Alaska, we lost, but then we turned around. We had more legislative response on the one issue, and 10 days later, they voted for a bill. And now it's in 17, 18 states in the United States, freedom of choice in medicine. Choice is freedom, freedom is choice. Without that, you have no liberty. You will have no life. You'll live as a slave. And I keep repeating, on the 911, on the money issue, on the chemtrails, I'm doing a film called, well, The Warlocks of Washington. I did that with Colonel Curtis B. Dow about the bombing of Pearl Harbor, about the dropping of the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the Japanese had asked for surrender. Oh, Colonel Curtis B. Dow, he was Roosevelt's son-in-law. We want to do a transcript of the conversation between Churchill and Roosevelt. If we do not change this world now, there will be no chance, no hope.
Okay, well, we're going to end on that note because that is all we've got time for. Thank you to everyone for watching our special 2-hour show. And for those who texted, and thanks to my very special guest, Anthony J. Hilder. If you want more information, his website is freeworldalliance.com. If you want to see him live, he is a speaker at Alternative View 3 in Bristol this weekend. Next week, we'll be back with yet another exciting show that might even change your life. Until then, remember, they're watching you, watching us, watching them. Cheerio.